Anyway, thanks for travelling with us again, guys. You booked a tour in China with us in June. How did you find that one?
It was very good. Hadn't been to China before, and it was a new experience. And we had expected a little bit bigger, but there were just 4 of us, and we managed to get on very well with our companions. It was we were met by good guides at each place, and enjoyed China immensely. I think the only downside was that our flights were in the evenings, and we were arriving at our destination about 1 a.m. most times because flights were delayed.
Yep, I've had that same problem in China. Yep.
Yes. But look, you know, it is what it is, and we just started a bit later the next day, and I felt for the guides having to pick us up in the middle of the night, really.
Yep.
So we spent a fair amount of time sitting around the airport, but that was an experience in itself.
Fantastic. What did you enjoy the most in the China trip?
Oh, I think, what did you enjoy the most, Bill?
Probably the rice fields.
The Longsheng.
Longsheng. Yeah, fantastic that spot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. I thought the wall was amazing, but we weren't on that very busy part of it. We were up on the Mutiama section. Mutianyu, yes. And but when we got to Guilin, and then Xi'an was after Beijing, which was just full on, and of course Tiananmen Square in the Forbidden City, and our son had been in China in 1988 or 7, the year before the Tiananmen Square massacre. He was a school student on a school tour, played trumpet in the band. They were on a concert tour, and so, that had been very moving for him when it happened 12 months after he'd been there, so I was very interested to be in that same space in his 40s. But Xi'an was beautiful in its difference from Beijing, and the very traditional buildings, and it felt more Chinese. Guilin, I think the Longsheng, the rice paddies, it was raining, it was not an ideal day, but that just blew me away, I think, to actually see that.
That was my highlight when I went to China as well. Same thing, rained the whole time, but I loved it.
Yeah, so I guess plod we went through, and it was fine.
Excellent, so good to hear, guys. We'll move on to Vietnam now. How are you finding this trip so far?
I'm really enjoying it.
It's been good.
Yes.
Yeah. Different to what I thought it would be. And,
I think a lot of people seem to find that with Vietnam.
Yeah,
I was the same, I think.
there you go.
I've quite enjoyed finding out more about the war history, which of course was relevant because it was our era. Bill wasn't involved, but we knew people that were, but not a lot of very close friends, but they were our contemporaries, and they were the parents of our children as we all got older. And I found the War Remnants Museum was quite sobering, and
the one in Ho Chi Minh City.
In Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? Full on, but really, really worth seeing, I think.
And the tunnels as well, the Chu Chai tunnels. Pardon me. But what I found was very interesting was to read all the information from a Vietnamese perspective, because as an Australian you really get what the media gives you in Australia, the American and the Australian version. So in the middle of all of that lies everyone's reality, and different sides they're doing what they can for their nation, and
of course.
But anyway, I found that was actually excellent. It was put together. It was very much a Vietnamese perspective, and then of course the reunification palace, that had interesting history on the walls as well downstairs to read about
the bunkers,
the whole sequence of colonisation, you might say, French, Americans, and the North and the South, and the various wars. History.
Yeah, it's good, the educational side of things as well.
Then of course Hoi An was just beautiful.
Beautiful place, isn't it?
Bit wet, but beautiful.
And a bit flooded.
We got wetter by the minute. We
storms.
missed going across to Cham Island, but in actual fact we then did a cooking school and had a free afternoon to wade through Hoi An. But that was probably it was good because Cham Island for us was probably going to be a bit of a long day because we weren't interested in sort of sitting on the beach and wandering around. Half a day probably would have covered that.
Yep.
So doing a cooking school was good because we'd
Fantastic.
done one in China too, and we
Yeah,
enjoyed
yeah.
that. And in Hue, or however it's pronounced, the rain. But I love the history of that too, going out to the tombs and Vu was very good with his knowledge of that dynastic history.
Yep. Excellent. Yeah. And speaking of the local guides, how have you found the service so far?
They've been
It's been
very
alright.
good.
Yeah.
Yes, the James who picked us up from the airport, I would like to have kept him. But then Ming was great too. He took us around the Ho Chi Minh City, and then we've had Vu for well, we had someone else from picked us up at the airport and through. But yes, so Vu he's very knowledgeable about his history as well, and very very polite and.
And so was his driver.
Oh, and
too.
Hi, the driver, was a delight. We thought, his English
That's
isn't
always
bad.
good, yep.
Well, look, his English is actually quite good. He came into his own this morning on the way to the airport, and I
His
thought,
confidence.
oh no, nothing to do with confidence. We said to each other, I'm sure he understands far more, and his English is far more than we're actually becoming aware of.
Yeah.
Very obvious today. No surprise.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that.
That's right. No, but he was great, very
Yep.
good. So that's been our link through there.
Yep.
And so now here we are in Hanoi, and a couple of days, and into Ha Long Bay, and then back,
It's always
and
a
then
highlight.
home.
Yep. Fantastic. No worries. Well, thanks for spending this time with us today, guys, and thanks for travelling with us as well.
That's
Really
fine.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, great, thanks.